Very good evening, everyone. Palace fans around the globe. Welcome to the Red and Blue Review, a special Bank Holiday Monday edition, a special semi-final edition review looking back on yesterday's defeats at Wembley Stadium. I'm joined on the show tonight by some familiar faces. I'll introduce them to you as they pop up on the screen in a moment or two. But before we get into the show, if you're watching this live, please do share right now and start your own watch party to allow us to share more widely. Don't forget also you can find us on Twitter and YouTube. Anytime you can watch, listen or download this or any of our other podcasts. You can ask your Alexa to play the latest Red and Blue Review podcast, or simply go to redandbluereview.co.uk for all the links. So welcome along, everybody. Welcome along to Gel Holyoke, as usual. Welcome, Gel. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. Yeah, congratulations on your first hosting, by the way. I wish you luck, and as they say in the game, break a leg. Although that'll only happen if you fall off the chair.
Well, there you go. I couldn't have picked a bigger game for it, couldn't I? Nick Philpott, I think he's still a bit starstruck from the number of Palace celebs he was having selfies with at Wembley yesterday. So that's why he's not here tonight. But there we are. Good evening, Tim. Rant on Talk Sport. Proud to be red and blue. How are you?
I'm not too bad considering. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Jolly good. And welcome along to Greg Ellis. Greg, you're also producing the show. You're a bit like a player manager tonight, aren't you?
That's it, yeah. The multitasking, so it's bound to go horribly wrong.
There we go. Anyway, welcome everyone. It's great to see so many names joining us live this evening from all over the UK and probably the globe as well. Who knows? But I think most people are in the UK because they were at the game. Paul Bristow from Plymouth is here. Paul Holden, hello to you. Brett Kemp, Ian Appley, Teresa, hi T, how are you? Colin Squires, Neil Chatterjee, and loads of more familiar faces. We'll give you some name checks a little bit later on. So this evening, one of the things I want to do is I want to look at the pre-match build-up for Wembley. How was your pre-match? Because there was a lot going on. There was Covent Garden, there was the Green Man, there was Box Park. There are all kinds of things happening around Wembley Stadium in the build-up to the game yesterday. We're going to look at the team selection, a little bit different to what we sort of expected. We'll look at the game itself and your overall Wembley experience, guys. And how proud are we all to be Crystal Palace fans this evening, despite the defeat yesterday, because the support was absolutely magnificent. And everyone that we've heard from across the social media and all kinds of media have said what great support. And, of course, they're spot on. So Gel, you were in the posh seats, weren't you? Again, tell us a little bit about your pre-match yesterday.
Well, it's not a claim to fame, but what I will say is I was one of the first in the stadium, and because I had to get a ticket printed out up in the Club Wembley, just almost near the Royal Box, where a couple of friends of mine were actually in. I was the first one sitting there. I don't know why I got there really early. I didn't have tickets for Box Park or anything. I didn't have a booze. I had to work today, so I just thought, I'm going to get there. I'm just going to watch it. It's like my own time lapse. So yeah, it was. I had a lovely seat. Yeah, really Very good.
And you bumped into a friend of the show, I understand. Is that right?
Yeah. It was like he was behind me, then he was in front of me, and then he was behind me again. As he went past me, I said, "How you doing, Steve?" And he was like, "Oh wow!" He recognised me. I was quite happy with that.
Did he remember your name? That's what I want to know.
Yes, and also that I'd been to Cape Verde, and I congratulated on being a granddad for the first time. But yeah, had a nice chat. He was with Alan Smith and another ex-manager. I can't think of his name now as well, but it was with a referee. I'm not sure whether all that lot were sort of in the same area, hospitality area, and they all came out at the same time. But there was a good few familiar faces there.
Absolutely. There were a surprisingly large number of ex-Palace players at Wembley yesterday.
And managers.
And managers, yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Tim, tell us about your experience yesterday pre-match, because your first visit to the new Wembley, I understand, is that right?
Yeah, that was actually my first visit to Wembley since the Zenith Data final back in '91, I believe it was. So yeah, Wendy and I left quite early, met up with Nigel and Andrew Adams at London Bridge and his lovely family, so that was cool. Got straight there. Completely different. I mean, it was none of the hotels or the flats or the rentals were there. It was, yeah, completely different. Different. We went up to the Green Man, I think it was.
What was that like?
Great in there. That was really good. It was like there was no. I mean, there were no Chelsea fans there, so there was no hassle, no aggravate. It was a real friendly, good, noisy atmosphere. Then we headed off from there, probably quite early, just to go and get some food, and we got our seats quite early. Got in, I think, as soon as the gates opened, we went in, and we were up in the gods at the top. So that was Wendy's first time there, and my first time for a lot of time. So it was quite surreal. I put a comment. It's actually quite emotional, to be fair, because an awful lot of water's been under the bridge since I've been there.
Yeah, totally.
Good and bad. So it's it was really special.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. And I knew you were in the ground early because I saw your pictures on social media of an empty stadium, a bit like Jill. You could have waved to each other. I'm surprised you didn't, actually, was you were nice.
I waved to Joe. He ignored me because
because he was in the posh seats. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Greg, I'll come to you. Tell us a little bit about your pre-match experience. What did you have to do?
Well, I in first part of my morning was taking the kids to the woods, having a bit of a walk around, doing my fatherly duties before then jumping on the train at Reading and heading over to Paddington, and then I caught up with your good self at Charing Cross, and settled in for a couple of beers, and then it was a bit of a hop trot across one side of London to the other, and then back up to Wembley. So. No, it was quite nice.
Indeed, and I felt quite responsible having your match ticket in my sweaty mitts, and I didn't get that till the day I was travelling up from Sussex, and I had to meet some guy on the train I'd never met before either. It was a mad experience. So anyway, it all came good in the end with your match ticket, Greg. Which
I was just thrilled.
Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be doing the show together tonight if I hadn't come good on it. You know, do you know what I mean? So
no, look, absolutely, no. I was just thrilled to be there. It was, I'm very grateful.
There we go, and yeah. So we went up to Marylebone, and then we made the mistake of trying to get into a Chelsea pub. It was Chelsea fans only, and they wouldn't let us in. So we ended up with a few tins on the pavement with loads of Chelsea. Because we had to meet another guy with a ticket. And then we went in the Ibis Hotel, which had sort of barriers around it. So it looked as if it was closed, but it wasn't. So if you're in the know, we went in there, Greg, didn't we? We had a few beers in there as well, which was quite a good mix of Palace and Chelsea before the game. And that was a quite good experience as well. So all good. So tell us in the chat about your pre-match. Where did you drink before the game? And do you think it was a good deal? Teresa Baker says drinks were reasonable at the Green Man at £5 a pint. Gareth Thorndale, forgot to take my ticket out of my pocket, went through the washing machine, looks like cotton wool now. Well, at least you didn't put it through the washing machine before the game, mate. You know, that would have been a bit of a disaster. I'll tell you one thing that happened to me. I'm in the Ibis Hotel, and I looked around for my jacket and I couldn't find it. And some guy comes in, he was a Chelsea fan, and he put my Palace jacket on, and he thought it was his, and he walked out, and he got outside and realised it was the wrong jacket, and he came back in again, and inside his jacket on the back of the next chair was his match ticket. And he walked out with the wrong jacket. So that was a bit of fun for him. But didn't bother me. It was only an old Palace jacket. But he looked a bit of a twit. But a Chelsea fan with a Palace badge on his jacket. But there we are. Right, okay, let's get into the game then. Let's talk about the team selection. So team selection was a little bit... we've got the team up there, Greg. Can we share that? It was a little bit... a few surprises in there, I think. One of the surprises was Ward selected ahead of Nathaniel Klein because Klein has been playing right back. And Ward got straight back into the team. I think there's a bit of background noise. It might be you, Greg, actually. I can hear a child crying. So if you don't mind.
No, Nick.
Needs to mute.
Yeah, that'd be good. And we sort of went 5-3-2, which was the first time I've sort of seen us play like that. So, and in comes Eze for Gallagher, really. I think that was the main change there. And MacArthur comes in as well and captains the side. So, Tim, let's come to you first of all. Your thoughts on that team selection?
Disappointed that Elise wasn't playing. I think that side was very much put out to negate Chelsea rather than us trying to go for the game and trying to hit them on the break, which disappointed me a bit. I'd hoped we'd progressed enough in a one-off game like this. Let's go for it. You know, if you're going to lose, you might as well lose having a go. I was a little disappointed by that, to be fair. I love Ward. I'm his greatest fan. But I thought it was a bit unfair on Klein as well, because I thought he'd been playing really well and getting better. And I think he's got better pace than Ward. So, yeah, I was a little surprised.
Joe, what were your thoughts on the team selection?
Well, I wasn't disappointed about Ward and Klein. Surprised that Elise was on. And I've always said, if you're on the bench, it means you're fit. And I thought you should have started. But yeah, I mean, it's just the surprising thing was the formations that we played. We kept switching, and I just think there was so much more to think that the players had to think about trying to just switch formations. Like you say, 5-3-2. I was watching in the second half, and we went 5-4-1, and I was like, hang on a minute, what is going on here? I was really annoyed that that we didn't. Yeah, and I know to play that. We basically stifled their fullbacks because who's their right back? James.
Reece James is on the right, and Alonso on the left.
I mean, he literally did practically nothing the whole game because of the way we set up. So it was a slight surprise, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you hear on the commentary. I watched the highlights of Match of the Day, and I watched the first half back live. I haven't seen the whole game live. I watched the first half back, and the commentary was saying, "Well, Palace setup has nullified Chelsea. It sort of worked, even though it wasn't pleasing on the eye. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't exciting, but it sort of worked. Certainly, for the first hour of the game, until they got their goal, it was sort of working, especially in the first half." And Greg, I mean, have you got anything else you want to add to what you've heard so far?
I think just going back on the Ward and the Klein selection, really, I was a bit disappointed that Klein didn't start. I thought it was a bit unfair, but I think we've all got an opinion on Joel Ward and length of service to the club, etc. Those kinds of things, and maybe that played a factor in it. Who knows? I was disappointed that Elise didn't start. And I appreciate we'll get to it later on in the game, but he was on the pitch for less than a minute before it carved an opening up. And I don't know. I just felt Palace didn't quite have the edge. But so yeah, the starting lineup was a bit of a surprise. I sort of agree with what Tim said. Really, it's a one-off game for us. We've got nothing to lose, and I do understand why we might have gone in a bit more defensively, but I don't know. My attitude is we may as well have just gone for it.
Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, and I said to Wendy before the game started when they put the line up, I said, we'll be all right for about the first half, maybe 50, 55 minutes, but Wembley's a lot bigger pitch, and it's a lot more difficult to play that kind of pressing, trying to nullify a team for a whole 90 minutes. And I think that's partly what cost us in the end, was that the players just... And I think also the substitutions, they kind of lacked focus. It kind of, it was all very strange. It was all very strange.
I mean, I think what I got out of that first half was that we did nullify Chelsea, no doubt about it. We restricted their opportunities, especially wide, especially with their fullbacks bombing on. And we broke the ball up a lot. Jimmy Mack, Eze, Schlupp, all were winning the ball in the middle of the park. But then when they were winning the ball, there was no outlet. No. There was no one wide on the right or wide on the left very often. And the balls they were trying to thread through down the middle to Zaha or Mateta weren't really working, and Chelsea snuffed them out. So it was sort of a bit like a game of chess. It was it was flat. Claire Davis, for a semi-final, I think we were flat. Absolutely, Claire. We were flat for a lot of that. And we sort of, it was a bit like a Hodgson selection in many ways. And I was just, don't forget, Patrick Vieira is still a relatively inexperienced manager. And therefore, he thought was probably doing the right thing to try and nullify Chelsea. Whereas really, we should be trying to get them worrying about us and playing our game. Gel?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the point that's already been said. I mean, this was a free hit. This wasn't about worrying about goal difference. It's not about worrying about 3 points. It was about putting yourself about. I mean, look at them. Look what they were doing to us. We tried to play. They kicked us. It was. I just feel that the impetus of an initial 5-3-2. We just got completely open. Like Jimmy Mack, but I reckon he had one of the best 60 minutes that I've ever seen him play for us. Honestly, if anyone said they weren't our man of the match, I'm gonna fight them. Honestly, I ain't having it. He was our man of the match. An absolute country mile and got subbed off. He was, and without him in the middle, what the thing about this pressing game that we're playing, we're only doing it with 2 players. When Gallagher plays, then Wilf joins in. Then Ayew might join in, or then if Gallagher plays, 3 or 4 players press. If Gallagher didn't play, 2 players pressed, and to press with 2 players, you're playing against Rudiger and James, and that's a piece of piss. It's not even it's a no-brainer. You just put your foot on the ball and just chip out over the top of them, and the press is finished. So it was. Our press was a lot of the time, and then when we did, and as has been said. Good teams, the players won't stand behind another player. They will move out the way to find a bit of space to receive a ball, want the ball all the time. We weren't doing that. We weren't doing that at all, which is why it was so flat.
Yeah. And Rob Donovan says, think that Pat overthought it yesterday. And I would agree with you there, Rob. I think that's probably a good summary. He overthought it. And if we played our normal game, we might have had a better chance of beating them. But we'll never know that. We'll never know that. Nick is with us. He's at work, apparently. He's starstruck by the number of people he's met. And he said that Patrick Vieira got the subs wrong. Got the subs completely wrong, bringing Benteke on, who didn't touch the ball. He was up against their excellent centre-halves. Yeah, absolutely. I thought the most strange sub of all was your friend, Jordan Ayew coming on for Mateta. I just didn't get that at all. Did anyone else? I mean, what are your thoughts about that one?
Mine?
No.
Tim first, then Gel.
I just, as soon as I saw that, I said, well, we ain't coming back from this game. I mean, no offence to Ayew, the last few games he's played really well, scored a goal, but it's the FA Cup semi-final, and bring on your attackers, bring on something to change it. And for Mateta, that to me, I think is the first time this season I thought, Vieira, he's not the finished article yet. That alone was like, there's still room for improvement. And just seeing what he can do when he does get those things right. But that showed his inexperience to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg?
I think the substitute that should have happened there was Edouard for Mateta, a like-for-like, target man. For me, I didn't know if that was tactical or what that was. I was kind of hoping that someone here would know, or someone in the chat would have a better observation of that. But for me, I couldn't get my head around that. I just felt that I was with Tim on that. As soon as that substitution happened, I thought that's it. I don't know why we've thrown the towel in here. It didn't seem like the right move. And that's not a criticism of Jordan Ayew. I just didn't see how the team was ever going to be creative enough.
But it's 0-0 at this stage, isn't it? They haven't scored yet, have they, Chelsea? When Ayew comes on. Is that right, I think? Someone said this in the chat. We're not sure. And Edouard, there's a lot of love for Edouard, but he's probably, someone said, he's probably third choice striker. He's done something wrong. He's clearly out of favour, and he's probably thinking, "What have I got to do to get a game?" And I think he's got to be managed very carefully, because he was scoring goals for fun for Celtic in the Premier League up in Scotland, And if he doesn't get some game time, I think he'll want away. I think he'll want to play football. Sim?
Ayew was substituted on the 55th minute, so it was before the first goal.
It was 0-0. Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
I mean, he scored in his first season. He scored a lot of goals for Celtic. In his second season, not so many. And with the best one in the world, it's a tad different in the English Premier League. I rate him. I think it's a shame that he's not getting more game time, because I think he could. I mean, when he comes on, he runs. I mean, I won't mention Zaha yet because I'm sure we'll come on to him later. But he's like a little bit of what Zaha used to be. When he's in the penalty box, he's thinking, he's changing, he makes things happen. So I think it's a shame he's not played more.
Greg?
I think that Mateta's form has kept him out. I think that it's a long season, and I think you have to set your teams up differently for different opponents. And I think really, if you have I reckon if you put Mateta and Edouard in a room together and you had a conversation as a manager, you'd say, look, I can't really drop you. You know, you're playing this well. It's not because you're not a good player, but you know, quite frankly, you can't drop someone when they're playing well. But I do feel though, sometimes you shake it up and you surprise other teams. Teams might watch videos back. Oh, they've played Mateta 5-6 games in a row. That's when you might look to switch and like, right, this is an Edouard game. You know, I think, you know, having that, we got good players to choose from now, which is a bit of a rare scenario for Palace. Normally we've had to play who we've got. So I don't think Edouard would want away. I think these players are very understanding now. This is a squad game, and you got to train well, you got to perform well in training, etc. And you got to take your chance when you get given it. And really, Mateta did that for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a club like Leicester, they made 7 changes again yesterday for their Premier League game from Thursday night in the Europa League conference. So, you know, I can't see us ever making 7 changes for a game where both games matter. You know, we're just not quite at that kind of level yet, I don't think. Let's talk about some of the other players then. We haven't touched on Wilf. What do we think about Wilf's game yesterday? Jan, have you got a thought about Wilf yesterday?
Okay, so I saw him do one thing. I haven't seen him do it before, and this is going to sound terrible because we should be sort of celebrating the fact we got to a semi-final. But having literally failed so badly yesterday, you know, my own personal opinion, I saw him sit on the floor and slap his hand. The only person I've seen do that in the last, 6 months is my granddaughter. He literally was flinging his arms in the air. The ball was I'm not sure. I thought he had one of his worst games of the season. I think when he did have the ball, he was trying to make the Chelsea players look stupid, which is why they just kept kicking him. He's trying to do flicks and tricks and step overs and everything. And in the end, they just kick him, and then he sits on the floor and he got fouled in the first half. And he did that. He slapped his head. He walked over to the player. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Rudiger. It was one of the other defenders. And he just went, "What? Why did you do?" He went like that. Why did you do that? And the geezer must have been thinking, "Who is this idiot? Who is this idiot? It's a game of football. If I miss the ball, I'm going to kick the player." You know, and that's the things with Chelsea and with all good teams, they don't care about taking a card to stop a play. It's just a part of the game, literally.
And I thought that Chelsea got lucky yesterday not to get more cards. I thought Mason Mount in particular,
without a doubt,
was kicking people and should have got booked, you know. So, you know. Tim or Greg, thoughts about Wilfried Zaha yesterday? Tim?
This is a family show, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't swear.
Yeah. Partly, I think it was the change that Vieira made to the way we were playing. He did. I don't think he liked that. But this is Wilf. How is this any different to what we've been saying for 2, 3, 4 years now? It's his temperament, and I get he's disappointed. I understand that. I appreciate the passion he's got for the club. Is it his last chance to win anything with us? Who knows? You never know. But I'm over it. You know, he's a great player for the club. You know, he's played some good games. He's scored some goals this season. But yeah, we're not a big enough club. We don't have a big enough squad to be able to handle a prima donna like that, who, rather than getting on with the game, trying to score and trying to get over the opposition by playing well, does as Joel says, sits on the floor, slaps the ground. You know, it's like, yeah.
I know. And someone said in the chat that after 40 minutes, their 5-year-old asked, is Wolf actually playing in this game? I think, I agree with you, Jill. I think he did have one of his poorer games for sure. But what amazes me, we say that Wilf, we're no longer a one-player team. We're no longer reliant on Wilf. We've got other good players. We've got Elise, we've got Eze, we've got Gallagher normally in the Premier League. We've got players that can really turn it on other than Wilf. And yet when he's having a bad game, he still doesn't take him off. So yesterday would have been a good example, maybe 10 minutes from the end, because we still had another sub. I think we could have used another sub to bring Edouard on or something. And someone else has said that in the chat. I'm not saying we should have taken him off necessarily yesterday with 10 minutes to go, because if we do level it, then we've got extra time and penalties and everything else. But, he almost seems to be beyond being subbed by Vieira. It doesn't happen enough, Gel.
Rob Donovan has made a quite a valid point. He said he was too isolated. Didn't have his best game for sure, but back to being isolated. And I thought, well, if that was Chelsea's game, if that was our game plan to put him out wide on his own, without Tyrick going forward, then that's a foul on Patrick Vieira's behalf. And if that was Chelsea's tactic to keep him isolated, then they got that spot on. To keep him isolated and also to just kick him out of the game. I mean, that's what they do. It's not a new thing, is it? To kick their best players out of the game. We've had players like Sean Derry and etc. And any team that we've ever played, they'll say, if you have to give their best player a bit of a dig, give him a dig, get a card, we'll get someone else to kick him. It's not a new thing for Wilf. Watford spent years doing it. All their players, they put their hands up to it, saying. Deeney said, if I kick him, get a card, someone else kick him, someone else get a card. We don't care. We'll kick him out of the game. So it worked.
It does. And just a few comments in the chat there. Yasmin, hi Yasmin, nice to see you on here tonight. Yasmin is one of my away day buddies. She says Zaha shouldn't have walked off like he did without acknowledging the crowd, but he did apologise, which I thought was a big step for him. And yesterday was a big chance of Wilf to really show what he can do, says Mark Bushell. Really shows class by playing on the biggest stage, but he didn't step up to the plate. So I think we all agree with that one. And it's a shame for him. But there we go. He will bounce back. And here's hoping he has a great game up at Newcastle on Wednesday night. So one other player I want to talk about who had 90 minutes yesterday, and it was his first 90 minutes in a long, long time, was Eberechi Eze. Daniel Garrett said he was too quiet. I think you mean quiet. But he did play 90 minutes. So thoughts about Eberechi Eze are going to come to you, Gel, first.
Again, he was another one I thought was quiet, but I think Chelsea done their homework. As soon as he got the ball, I don't know if you noticed this, as soon as he got the ball, he had 2 or 3 players at him every single time.
Yeah.
He never got the chance to, if he turned, then he was fouled. I can't even say how many times, 4, 5, 6 times. Every time he got out of that little bit, they just brought him down. It was easy. I thought the referee was very, very lenient with Chelsea. But I thought he did all right. But he seemed to be playing. Eze is a flair player who likes to pick the ball up like Edouard, and they look forward. They look forward and they go forward. Yesterday, he didn't get a chance to do that. I have a feeling that he was tactically subdued. I'm going to put it that way.
Very good summary. I like that, tactically subdued. We'll use that one again. Tim Rant on TalkSport. What are your thoughts about Eberechi Eze yesterday?
I don't think we'll see him back to the way he was till next season. The injury he had beginning of this season was a big one. And I don't care who you are, if you're a professional, it plays on your mind and it takes time to get over. Physically, you may be fine, but I think mentally, it takes time to get fully over it and to be able to go. So rest of the season, give him some game time, getting back into it.
Yeah.
Pre-season training, pre-season, bang. I think next season we'll see him back to the way he was before.
Yeah, sure. Good. Okay, we'll talk about the goals. Really, they came. Have we got the stats up there, Greg? Please for the game. When the goals went in. Oh, it didn't tell us a time there when the goals went in, does it? We've got that somewhere. But they're the stats of the game. You can see those for yourselves. I won't read them all out. Chelsea, 2/3 possession. That's sort of what it felt like, didn't it, watching it? That's what the eye test told us. Shots on target 4-2, shots off target 6-3, and they have 5 corners to our 2. So, their first goal, bit of a mix-up, really. I don't think we played it out. We were under pressure at the back. Tariq Mitchell. So, thoughts about the goal, Gel, and then Tim.
Okay, I've got thoughts on both of the goals. Having watched them 5 or 6. So the first one, Guay is put under pressure and just hits an unplayable, a short, really hard pass at Tariq, puts him under straight away because of the class of the Chelsea players. It puts him under. He loses it, and it's not his mistake. It's Guay's mistake in putting him under so badly in such a vulnerable position. And seconds later, we concede the first. Everything was unlucky about that. The ball just fell to Chelsea, and even then, I've literally got it down to slow-mo of RLC hitting that shot, and Butland is level with it. And if you really watch it, takes a deflection off Anderson.
It does,
and it takes it that it literally in that split second, it takes it over him. So I thought we were a little bit unlucky, but I mean, to be honest with you, it was nothing more than Chelsea deserved. The way they really came after us in the second half, and we were still in I don't know, whatever, second gear. They upped it, and anyway, and then obviously the second goal. My mate tries to do a Cruyff turn in the middle. I was like, so the best player on the pitch, I thought, from Chelsea was Rudiger. I don't know how. Whoever got man of the match, can't remember.
Werner got man of the match.
Yeah, in a million years. I mean, he was up against Kouyaté, and Kouyaté sold himself every single time. It was embarrassing up against Werner. But anyway, I didn't think he had that bad a game, to be honest with you, Kouyaté. But yeah, so Ayew tries to do a Cruyff turn, gets caught by Rudiger, and I think it's 7 seconds later, the ball's in the net. So I've never seen him do it before. I don't know why he was trying to do it then. I think some of our players were doing stuff yesterday that they don't do. I mean, firstly, I think Ayew was on the left.
I think Jordan has been listening to you, and he wants to impress you, and therefore he's doing these things in the pitch.
He can impress me if he leaves.
Tim, the goal, the first one, second one.
65 minutes. Ruben Loftus-Cheek. That was the timing of it. Yeah, it was a mistake. Tariq could have done maybe a bit better with it, but like Joe said, the pass to him was a bit of a rocket. But to be fair, looking at Chelsea, that was the only way I could see him scoring up until that point from a mistake. Because before that, I thought we looked pretty safe. We were nullifying them. And in fact, back at the tube station going back, one of the Chelsea fans said to me, the only problem with you guys today is you didn't play your normal game.
Yeah,
which is kind of what we were saying.
Which we talked about. Yeah. No, Nigel says that when Loftus-Cheek came on, I turned to the guy next to me and said he'll score. Yeah, okay, Nigel, easy for you to say now. But if you did say that, fair play to you. Should have some money on it, mate. That might have softened the blow a little bit. But it was his first goal in 2 years or something. I saw him interviewed, and he said, really, I shouldn't have celebrated because I enjoyed my time at Palace, but I was so happy I scored in a cup final or semi-final rather that I celebrated, and my emotions got the better of me. But there we are. We ought to talk a little bit about our chances as well. The Kouyaté shot in the first half that Mendy got down to his left, and then Anderson followed up, hit the post, albeit it would have been ruled out because he was offside. But the first shot wouldn't have been ruled out if it had gone in. Greg, thoughts about that opportunity?
I think I haven't rewatched the game, and I'm only going back off of what from watching it from being there. But I don't know. I don't know if it was that good of a chance. I think it was always comfortable for Mendy, really. The one off the post, I didn't realise that it would have been ruled off for offside. But yeah, that was a bit of a shame. I think any other day, I mean, now I'm aware it would have been offside. Yeah, any other day it would have gone in. But you know, I don't know. I don't think. I don't. We didn't really create enough. And we've covered it really by saying, you know, we didn't really play our own game. I mean, being a parent, you know, I've waited to say this for ages, but I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
You sound like Wembley.
Very good, very good. Greg, I like that. I like that a lot. The other chance we had was in the second half when we were already 2-0 down, and it was a corner swung in from our right. And it was I who got a flick onto it. And Alisson at the far post, he had a free header. All he had to do was hit the target. And he put it over. And that was the moment when you knew the game was gone. You know, because if he makes that, if it's 2-1 then suddenly last 5 minutes, who knows what happens. But yeah, very disappointing to see that one go over the bar. And he knew it. He knew it. He could see in his body language. He knew he should have scored, hit the target. Gel.
On the other side of that, I mean, they did look more dangerous. I mean, whether they bought on, 200 million quid sort of substitutes on a bit sharpish, but I mean, they've got their own Benteke, haven't they? I mean, he literally couldn't kick him. He couldn't kick himself in the sleeping bag, and he's 5 yards out, and he hits the post. I mean, that guy gets £350,000 a week and costs 90 million quid. I mean, that is scandalous.
97.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm just, for me. But the only thing I will say, I will say this. I'm glad. I sat next to, I had a Geordie on one side of me, a Newcastle fan, but he's a friend of mine, so he got a friend of my mates, so he got the other ticket. And he wanted us to win. Next to me, I had an American Chelsea fan, but he's been here 15 years. And it was a mixture of Palace and Chelsea around me. But on the whole, I think we need to talk. Are we going to get off the football in a minute?
Yeah, we will. I just want to sum up the day tomorrow. I've got another 5 minutes, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that what the game needed us to score. And I said to him before, this Chelsea fan, I said, look, all I hope today is that you don't hump us. That's all I hope for. And they didn't, but it was, it was a whimper at Wembley.
Yeah, it was. It was. Fergus Tid, hi Ferg, said he saw the club laid out Gallagher's kit in the dressing room like he was going to play. Lovely touch. Hopefully that'll convince him Palace the team for him. And he was out there, wasn't he, at the end, clapping the Palace fans. And you could be forgiven at the end of the game for thinking we'd won 2-0. Because the Chelsea end was empty, half empty, and our end was still full with all the flags, including the white ones. What was that all about? White flags as well. Tim?
Yeah, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, just on Gallagher, those of us fans that are true fans and get in the ground hours earlier would have seen that, there were very few fans in and some of the players came out on the pitch. Gallagher was one of them, and he walked out, and there were probably about 10 or 15 fans, if that, down in that little corner by where the players come out, and he walked around, and obviously one of them called his name, and he came straight over, jumped over the barrier, and he was there for probably 10 minutes, signing autographs, talking to the players, talking to the kids, and it was like brilliant to see. It was kind of like, just sums up the kind of guy he is, I think, really, and the link he's got with us now.
Very good, very good. Yeah, no, I missed that. I was still in the bar, mate, at that time, so I had no idea that happened. But thanks, Tim. That's why you were there early, Joe.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing about Gallagher. If the Chelsea takeover involves our two chairmen, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say, because they need to find another billion, right? On top of $2.5 billion to buy Chelsea, they need to find another billion to fund a new stadium. That's why they're going to play at Wembley for 2 or 3 years. But I'm going to stick my neck out here and say that if they go to Chelsea, that money and whatever comes, I reckon Gallagher could be part of that deal. I really do. I've said it for ages. I think he will be a Palace player. I've never known a low knee to have a song. Never known. I mean, he chanted his name at Wembley. It's a Chelsea
in the
player.
23rd minute. Yeah, it almost got going, didn't it? Yeah.
I know. Yeah, but it did. It did. The thing is, it was lad. I'm telling you now. But the Chelsea fans that I was sitting next to were like, "Wow, it's a big thing."
Okay, we're going to come off the game in a minute. Tim, the last word on the game.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, there was also that photo of the guys in the changing room, obviously before the game, and Parish in there talking to Gallagher, and actually, you know, we've all knocked Parish and Freeman over the years. Of course we have. But it's little things like that, like Gel says, you kind of think, you know what, for once, Gel could be right.
There's always a first time for everything, Tim. So there we are. One question I want us to just kick around a bit tonight is, look, you know, there's a huge number of Premier League clubs. The vast majority of Premier League clubs have got a bigger capacity than Selhurst Park. Now, there were 38,000 Palace fans inside Wembley yesterday. Now, I know some of them will be casual fans or support other teams, really, and they've gone along because their mates got them a ticket and that kind of thing. But let's say there's 34,000 Palace fans inside Wembley yesterday. Our ground's too small for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Discuss. Greg, first, and then Tim.
100%. And I think this is going to be really, really unpopular with everybody. But I just think that Palace need to build a brand new stadium, a purpose-built stadium that is suitable for the next 100 years. I get Selhurst Park, I get the atmosphere, and I get the love for it, but the stadium is literally falling down. And I don't think the club can progress until they have the infrastructure in place, which is a brand new stadium. You can look at all of the work they've done already, which is in the youth system. And everything there, which is, it looks first class, and that's great and a good testament. But realistically, you know, we're gonna probably say where, but I would have expected it to have replaced the athletic stadium in Crystal Palace Park. Really, that would have been where. But for me and my money is the only way the club can ever really compete in the manner of which I think we're going to discuss. It's a new stadium.
Very interesting, Greg. If you agree with Greg, say so in the chat. If you think he's talking rubbish, tell us as well. Really interested. Thanks, Greg. Really good view. Tim and then Joe.
I would kind of find myself really torn. I'm old, but, you know, coming back after 12 years and going back to an old decrepit Selhurst Park, you can't beat it. You talk to a lot of the old professionals that don't play anymore, hated coming to Selhurst Park to play because the crowd's on top of you. It's an old changing room. But I want my club to progress. I want us to get better. I want us to move on. And simply from financial point of view, we need investment. We need money to be able to buy players. And with the size stadium we've got, the size crowds, we're never going to be able to get the money that we need. And we can't rely on a Textor coming along every other year to pump millions in to buy players. So I don't think we have a choice if we want to progress or even survive in comparison to the other clubs and the money and the crowds they get and the money they get coming in. I don't think we can survive in the Premier League if we don't do something, to be fair.
Okay, so you're saying new stadium as well, are you?
Begrudgingly, yes, because I don't think you can develop Selhurst Park. And the cost to develop, you might as well build a new one because...
Yeah, and let's face it, this new stand has not got off the flipping ground. I mean, Fulham have built a stand in the time we've been looking at the blueprint and all the rest of it on the side of the Thames there. And it just takes up to 34,000. 34,000 arguably isn't enough still, is it? Gel?
I don't know. I mean, the money is in the corporate. You know, I think our season tickets are worth about £12 million a year. So... but there's a few things. Firstly, Mukhtar, that's the funniest thing I've seen you say in all the years that we've had any kind of thing on there, mate. He said Sainsbury's need to something off. That really made me chuckle. So about I think it's 4 years ago when this stadium things first got off the ground, I told you guys might have even said it on a different thing that I was involved in. But I've said it before. One of my mates has said that he reckons that the old stand will still be there in 20 years. He said that 4 years ago. I also got another friend of mine who was solely responsible for designing that. He paid out his own money with his own architects and everything, designed that stand. And he said he could have had that stand built for £87 million. Steve Parish got involved in it, wrapped it in glass and put 50 million quid straight on it. Everything's gone up 50, 60, 70%. So you're talking probably about between 180 and 200 million pounds now to build that stand. Now, again, about 10 years ago, I was one of the people that was really excited by sort of talk that we were going to go back to the athletic stadium and do that. But I thought Parish was going to talk to that Chinese billionaire who was willing to rebuild the Crystal Palace, and that we could have got involved in a sports centre. There's a swimming pool. There's the infrastructure there. You know, you've got the buses infrastructure. They were talking about bringing trams up to Crystal Palace. It's already got its own station, a dedicated station. You could revamp everything. But you're talking about if we're going to throw the best part of £200 million at a stand, if we threw £200 million at that area, I'm pretty sure Bromley Council was so skint that they would. I think there's one person now. I'm not sure. I think he's a QC, and he seems to have everybody wrapped up in red tape for the sports. For that. But
let me bring Greg in.
Yeah, I just want to bring up this point here, Ryan Hinton. I think it's quite interesting. So West Ham done it as it was needed, and it lost the atmosphere. But the revenue is showing it needed to happen. Love Selhurst, but it is run down. West Ham are in the semi-finals of the Europa League. Discuss.
Absolutely, and they're in the top 6 of the Premier League.
Exactly that,
and they're a very difficult team to beat. So absolutely. I think overall, I'm very much swayed by your argument, Greg. I love Selhurst. I love it to bits. I've been going there for so many years, like many of us. But if we're going to progress, we need to get real and have a stadium that is fit for purpose for the next 3-4 decades, not just next 3 or 4 years. So it's a big debate. We could talk about it all night. We could talk about it long and hard into the evening. And I think we should revisit this on a future show, because this isn't going away. But it just struck me yesterday with 38,000 Palace fans at Wembley. Our ground's too small, isn't it? You know, it's not only too small. It's just not. It's just crap, really. A lot of it. So,
didn't someone once say? Didn't someone once say, "If you build it, they will come"?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I just want to chime in on the last thing. That there isn't any reason why they couldn't design a stadium that had an old school vibe to it. There's no reason it has to be a bowl. You know, we've only got used to the bowl because that's the off the shelf design. You know, there's clever people out there. They would be able to build an intimidating stadium, because clearly that's what I would build. I'd build a really awkward away end, you know, and a really nice plush home end, and a dreadful a dressing room. Come on, you've got to play to your strengths here. But I don't see why there's any reason why you couldn't recapture that old school vibe, just built to last for the next 100 years, because at the moment Selhurst looks like it doesn't last for 100 days.
Yeah, very good. Okay, well, look, we'll come back to this for sure, but thanks for your views, guys. And if you got any views in the chat, anything you want to say, then please say it. We'll try and get you a mention. Joe, do you want to just say hello to a few people? We haven't really done that tonight, so any other comments you want to pick out?
Well, yeah, I'm talking to that friend of mine yesterday, Dave, and he just finished every league game in every league ground in the country, or top league ground in the country. And just going back quickly, he said the best free atmospheres, and he's 71. This geezer. He said the best free atmospheres he's ever been in: Ayresome Park on a night game, Main Road, the old Main Road, and Selhurst Park. Yeah, he's a Geordie. He's been everywhere. John CPFC said in 78, 79, we averaged 25,000. Most of the games that I went to, home games, were around 35 to 40,000. I remember having 44,000 against Ipswich, I think, when we thumped them 4-0. So Gareth Thorndale said, what capacity would you like for the new stadium? I think 40,000 would be would be all right. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. West Ham pay a peppercorn rent for this stadium. I'm pretty sure they're going to do what happened with Man City. That was Man City bought the stadium off of City and Manchester. I think that's what West Ham will do. West Ham have always had loads of money wrapped around them. Back to the days when one of my mates was offered ridiculous money 15 years ago to go and play for them, and it'd be ridiculous money today. So, but he said, Paul Holden says, as long as the ground doesn't look like Brentford's Lego Stadium. So, but yeah, I mean, it's so Fergus says a new ground with a tilt facility for the pitch, so that whatever way we're kicking, we'll always be going downhill.
Thanks, Fergus.
He's carried on the booze, and he from yesterday.
I saw his social media post today. He was drinking today as well, so that sums up. Anyway, guys, let's look ahead at the games we've got coming up. Before we do that, though, Tim, your name intrigues me. Tim Rant on TalkSport, proud to be red and blue. Tell us about your call to TalkSport briefly.
Yeah, so obviously we were at the game. The difference in the crowd was amazing. And we got out pretty quick, got the tube and had TalkSport on. And it had Chelsea fan after Chelsea fan calling up. One of them did say he thought he wouldn't have minded losing after the dive from Havertz in the first half, which he thought was disgusting. But all I was hearing was poor Chelsea fans this, poor Chelsea fans that, what they put up with this year, blah, blah, blah. And the switch flipped, and I had to call up. And I said, look, I'm sick and tired of hearing about these poor Chelsea fans. Chelsea are going to be fine. They're going to get a new buyer, and they're going to go on, no problems at all. They just beat us 2-0 with one great goal, one lucky goal. Said, how many hundreds of millions have they had spent on their team? I'd love a tenth of what they spent on our team. And I thought their fans were pathetic yesterday. The difference, and in fact, I mentioned, as I said this on TalkSport and a few other things that I can't say on the family show, but they agreed with me. One of them, I forget whichever one it was, and it wasn't Ambrose. He actually turned around and he said, if the FA Cup semi-final was won on the fans' performance, he said Palace would have knocked Chelsea out of the park.
We all know that.
But it was. I mean, I'm just so sick and tired of that, hearing about poor Chelsea. Their fans yesterday, their support. I said I didn't think there was anyone there till they scored, to be fair. But yeah, that's what that was.
If ever there was a case of we forgot that you were here, then that was it, wasn't it? Really. So there we are. Jill, do you want to come in quickly?
Yeah, like I said, I was surrounded by Chelsea fans, all nice people. But the American guy I was sitting with, he turned around and said, I've been looking forward to this. I've heard so much about, because I think he's wrapped up in work. He's a season ticket holder at Chelsea for a long, long time. But he just doesn't get a chance to go to a lot of the games. But with all the Chelsea fans, what I noticed when the Palace fans were singing, they were videoing. They were videoing them. Honestly, I promise you.
So, what was it with the white flags in the crowd? Does anyone know the answer to that? Because it's concerned a few people. I know that Nick was worried. He was playing with his OCD earlier that we had white flags in the display yesterday. If anyone knows the answer to that in the chat, tell us, please. We'd love to know. Let's look ahead at Newcastle. We go to Newcastle on Wednesday evening for a 7:45 kickoff in the Premier League. And Nigel, our very own Northeast exile, will be hosting a session at the Stack in Newcastle. So if you're going to the game, you can go and see Nigel and his mates there. And they will be meeting from 4:00 in the Stack. It's a bit like an open-air box park. And they'll be raising a glass to Jim Gordon, who was a Palace fan that lived up in the Northeast, sadly passed away last year. But they're going to be raising a glass to Jim's memory before the Newcastle game this coming week on Wednesday. I'll be travelling up. I think I'm on what train am I on? 1:30, I think, out of King's Cross. And staying over, of course, it's the only way to do it. You can't get back on the night of the game. So let's, and then of course the following Monday, we're not playing at the weekend. We've got a third home game in a row. We're playing on a Monday night. So we drew with Man City 0-0. We beat Arsenal 3-0. And now we've got Leeds United. Visit Selhurst Park next Monday night, the 25th. And I think that's probably an 8 o'clock kickoff. I could be corrected there. And let's hope we can keep a home run going in that one. So I want your predictions for those two games. I'm going to come to you first, Greg, and then Tim, then Gel. Don't look in the chat. Don't cheat. See what people put in. So, Greg, where are we going with these next two league games, in your opinion?
Okay, so I think we could potentially be a little bit rocked and a bit dejected from the semi-final defeat, but I think we'll probably hold Newcastle, and I've got a gut feeling it's probably 0-0 for that particular game. Leeds is at home, isn't it?
Yeah, we're at home. Yeah,
I think we'll beat Leeds. I don't think the blip will last for long, but I do think that Palace will turn Leeds over this time. We were very unlucky earlier on in the season. I think it was just a VAR penalty, wasn't it?
No, it was the last minute as well. Last minute.
Yeah. I think Palace would probably get a 2-1 win against Leeds, and 0-0 away at Newcastle.
Oh, okay, interesting. So 4 points from you, Tim.
1-1, 2-0.
Okay, so 4 points again. Okay, thank you, Gel.
2-2-2-0. 4 points again.
4 points again. Okay. So everyone's going for a draw in the North East. Newcastle have won 5 home games on the spin, guys. They won 5 on the spin. Now, I did catch their match of the day highlights against Leicester this afternoon. I recorded it from last night. I was too knackered to watch TV when I got home last night. But I watched it, and they got 2 really lucky goals, did Newcastle, I thought. Really fortunate. And they scored their winner in the 95th minute. So they're riding their luck a little bit. I think most people in the chat are saying similar. Everyone thinks we're going to draw away at Newcastle, beat Leeds at Selhurst, and we certainly owe Leeds that away day. Again, it was a midweeker. It was a horrible night. It was pouring with rain, and I think Benteke missed a sitter on about 75 minutes, and then they went up the other end in the dying seconds of the game and won the game, which was hard to take, really hard to take. So I'm hoping we can turn them over. Yeah, it was a penalty, I think. Yeah. That's right. It was Mark Gee, wasn't it? Who handled it in the box, I think. That's right. It went to VAR and took an age. But there we are. Okay. So I think we've come to the end of our show, guys. We've been going for nearly an hour. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, this evening. We go again on Tuesday, the 26th of April, 8 p.m. after the day after we play Leeds at home. We'll have another show for you then. But from myself, from Greg, Tim, and Gel, thank you very much for joining us this evening, everyone, and have a good rest of the week. See you in Newcastle if you're going. Cheers for now. See ya.
See ya.
Cheers.